Hey y'all, and welcome to the kitchen. Today we are going to do a delicious shortcut supper that is a one-pot wonder too. We are going to do a creamy ham and potato chowder. This is perfect for any rainy day. It's a go-to in the cool weather months and rainy days in our house, but it's also one that I'm showing you right now because it's the perfect thing for your leftover Easter ham. Right now I am using some deli ham. I got some thick sliced deli ham and I've got 8 to 10 ounces here. But when you've got that big ham left over from Easter and you don't know what to do with it and you've had enough ham sandwiches, this is the perfect recipe. So let's get started. Other than my ham, the things that I'm using today, I've got some red potatoes. I've washed them, but I'm leaving my skin on. I've got some corn because really traditionally almost never do you have a chowder without corn in it. Carrots, celery, and onions, those are a flavor base that make everything delicious and rich and flavorful and really get that slow, long cooked flavor without the slow, long cooked time. And then my creamy things are cream of chicken soup, and this is sour cream. We're going to talk about a really easy way to incorporate sour cream into your meal because it's difficult sometimes to get it really mixed in, but it really adds a great creamy flavor and a little kick of interest in the background. We also have some chicken stock and some garlic and onion powder, and we're going to go in with those things in a few minutes. So first things first, I'm going to get my pan on so we can get my heat started. One thing I always teach my students is if you've got your pan started first, at least you're not waiting on your pan. Now don't start it and walk away, but if you're right here chopping and you're ready to get started, go ahead and turn your pan on first. So I'm going to start by adding into my pan while I'm chopping about a half of a stick of butter, and that's just going to give everything that we have in here a really good flavor base to even start cooking in. We like butter when we do things that are rich and creamy and slow cooked like this because that butter just is luxurious in flavor. And I'm going to go in with my celery first, and then my carrots, and then my onions, because celery and carrots take a little bit longer than onions to cook. So that's a tip. Know your order when you're going in to cook something that is going to be a one-pot thing and you're trying to get it done quickly. The order you put things in the pot is really important. Now in this case my butter has already started melting, but I don't necessarily know for a fact that I'll get a sizzle when my celery goes in. That's totally fine in here. We're not trying to brown this, we're just trying to get the cooking started and just get them started getting translucent and tender. So I'm going to go in with my 1 stalk of celery, and then I'm going to peel my carrots really quickly. Make sure I use the right side of my peeler because one side's a shredder and we don't want that. Sometimes I don't even take the time to peel my carrots. If they look really new from the store, I'll just wash them because the outside just adds a little extra fiber. But sometimes I do. It really just depends on my time and if I want to do some extra little relaxation in the kitchen that gets me nice and calm. Things like that are so methodical, just kind of get me into a zen zone while I'm cooking. It's part of the love of cooking. Okay, so we got that. We're going to get our ends chopped off, both ends, and then I'm going to show you a trick for cutting these. Now that my celery's in and it's sizzling, I'm going to turn it down just a little bit because I don't want to brown my butter. Okay, so we got those chopped. We're going to go in half again. And then your big section, you want to go ahead and cut it in half. And then you're going to cut it in half again. So you're going to quarter your larger end of your carrots. And your smaller end of your carrots, you're just going to half. Because the goal is to have things similar to the same size. But you also, as often as possible, want to give yourself a flat surface before you start chopping. That's much safer for your fingers. It's much quicker for your chopping because things aren't running around the board. So I'm going to get about half of these, maybe a little more than half. Chop them up and get them in, and then I'll get the second half chopped through. See, nothing's rolling around on my board and running away from me, so we don't have to worry about that. Get those guys in. So my heat is now on about medium low, while I'm getting everybody in the pool, and then we can turn it up a little bit. Always keep your fingers curled under. Okay, now we're going to go in with our onion. This is going to be the equivalent of about a full cup and a half of onions here. If you've got a really giant onion, you can use half. Those Spanish onions, they can get so big. They are almost as big as my head sometimes. So if you get a Spanish onion that's almost the size of your head, you can use half of that. You just want at least a cup and a half of onions. It's hard to tell people how many onions and garlic kind of things to put in stuff because garlic cloves can vary so much, and so can onion sizes. So usually what I like to do, if I have time to think it through, is give somebody a measurement as to how much they use, so if they end up with one of those giant onions, you know what to do. Okay, so we're going to get our onion chopped up. We're going to go this way. Woo, he's a slippery guy. And then back this way with our fingers curled under again. Flip him forward. There we go. Take my time so y'all can see me. If I fly through this too fast, you kind of miss what I'm doing. Okay, through. Whoops. Sometimes they stick to the onion or to the knife. Come back down, put it in there, hold it with your finger and get it in there. That way when you go to chop, everything is nice and organized and easy to do. I have to find my towel to wipe my tears. This is a strong onion, even with my sharp knife. Okay, so we've got all of our flavor base in there. I'm going to wipe my tears. That flavor base is called the mirepoix. You can actually go back into the culinary student course and we talk a lot about the mirepoix, where it came from and why you need it. So, I'm still crying. I'm going to do what I normally do. Go ahead and clean off my board and knife. Get a paper towel. Sometimes I can go without it, but sometimes the onions are just strong enough. You got to take the time to clean the board. Okay, here we go. Board's clean, hands clean. One more tear wipe, and we should be back in business. Okay, now we're going to do what we always do, and we're going to build flavor in our pan. So we're going to have to go ahead and salt this now with about a teaspoon of salt, which is a good sprinkling or two. And we're going to go with about 10 cracks of pepper here. And this is a good time to go ahead and get in your garlic powder too. So I'm going to go in with a good tablespoon in my hand of garlic powder. Now I've shown you this before, but I want to remind you in case this is your first one. This tiny part in the middle of your hand is garlic. The bigger part, is tablespoon. The bigger part is about 1/4 of a cup. That's 2 tablespoons. So if you never want to get out a measuring cup for spices, that's how you can do it without, a little more. Okay, that's how you can do it without getting out of measuring spoons and cups and stuff. Okay. Now that all that's in, I'm going to give my ham a dice. And really this is building flavors in the pan and knowing the order to do it in. Let's stir this around real quick first. That salt is going to start to draw the moisture out of your onions and your celery, and that's going to give a little bit more moisture to the pan to start to cook your vegetables in, and that helps it get really delicious. Let me grab my knife out of the sink. Get it really wiped off good. And you always want to be careful when you're cleaning your knife. You don't want to drop it down in the sink. You want to clean it in your hand and then go ahead and put it to the side, because if you drop it in the sink and reach in, you could really cut yourself. Okay, so we're going to go with our ham. And I'm going to go with just some good 1/2-inch cubes here. I want to have bites that are big enough to know that you're eating ham, but not so big it's like taking over everything else. You want things to be not competing for attention. Everybody in the pool, I mean the ham is the salty star anyway, but we want it to all be the same shape and size. Okay, ham in. And stir that around. And some of that ham is going to get on the bottom of your pot, and it's going to get a little bit brown and golden, and that extra coloring is going to add some really good flavor to your soup. All right, next thing I'm going in with my potatoes. These are just some red potatoes that I've washed, and I'm going to keep them about the size of the ham and the onions and the celery and all that I did in there. So a good 1/2-inch, a little over 1/2-inch dice. And I've got 4 little new potatoes here, just like this. They kind of vary in shape and size too, but you want somewhere around about 2 cups of potatoes diced. Okay. I'm going to turn my heat up now that I've got so much going in my pan. You can always listen to your pan and hear by the sizzle what you need to do next. If something is really screaming and it's not supposed to be, because you're making soup and not seared meat, then you need to turn it back. If it's not really making much sound, you'll be there for longer than you need to be if you don't turn it up. And like I said, with my potatoes, I did just what I did with my carrots, and I gave them a flat surface to chop first thing out of the gate. So there's that. That little end doesn't look so great, so we're going to take him out. That one too. And then after that, I'm going to stir it one more time and get my corn in. This smells amazing. Something about the savory ham when it meets the mirepoix and the garlic, it just smells like comfort to me, like a warm hug. I'm going to drain the water that's in my corn. Sometimes I don't do this. If I'm making something like a chili that will need some liquid, or like a vegetable beef stew, sometimes I keep my liquid that has flavor in it. But in this case, the corn's not necessarily the star, and we want the creamy factor to come out the most. So we're going to keep our clear liquids just to our chicken stock, and then I'm going to add my creamy things in after I get my chicken stock in. Really, the chicken stock is going to be what helps your potatoes cook through and helps your carrots and celery finish off, get nice and tender. So everything's in there. I'm going to season one more time with a little bit more salt, only about a pinch this time. I'm not going to go overkill with the salt because we do add a cream of chicken soup, and that does have salt in it already. So does my shortcut stock. This box stock is not extremely salty. I actually use this frequently, and I know the salt level. If you're concerned about your salt level, then I recommend getting reduced sodium and just flavoring it and salting it to your own preference. So I'm going to get my cream of chicken open while I'm standing here and letting my pan come up to a temp. Pop open our stock too after that. Get my lid off. I don't even have to have it all the way off, but come on, buddy. There you go. And then I'm going to stir it one more time, and if there's a little bit of browning starting on the bottom of my ham, I'll know that's the time to put in my stock. And it looks really good. If it doesn't happen quite that fast for you, it's totally fine. Just be a little patient. We've only been in the game for about 13 minutes here. Dinner's going to be on the table fast. So I'm going to use for this amount this whole box of stock, which is about a quart of stock or 4 cups. So really, at the end of the day, this is a rich and creamy soup, but it's not incredibly fatty and heavy because you're doing a lot of your liquid in stock form, not in cream and milk. So that's going to come up to a boil. And at this point, I'm going to put my lid on, and I'm going to wait for it to simmer for about 3 or 4 minutes and let my potatoes get tender. Then after that, I'm going to add in my creamy factor. I'm going to do my cream of chicken soup and my sour cream, and then we'll see what it looks like when it all comes together. So I'll see you right back here in just a minute. Okay, you guys, we're back. I want to show you what we're going to do with the sour cream. But first, we're going to get our cream of chicken into our mixture. Now, our potatoes are nice and tender. We've had this boiling for about 3 or 4 more minutes. I covered it up to get it to boil again faster, but as soon as it came to a boil, I took the lid off. And here's why. If you've got starch in your pot, potatoes, rice, any kind of pasta, that starch will create something of a reaction with your water, and it will start to come up when it boils even more than a regular boil would, and it foams. It makes a mess on your stove. So once this came to a boil, I took my lid off and let it do its thing without the lid on. So now I'm going to go in with my cream of chicken soup. And if you are not wanting to use this, whether you are just not having it in your pantry, or you want to skip this step for health reasons of like the salt level or something like that, a good substitute for cream soups in the kitchen is to just go with a roux, which is a butter flour base. You make it and then stir it into your pot. So I would just melt butter in a saucepan, put equal parts butter and flour, so I'd say 2 tablespoons of butter with 2 tablespoons of flour. Melt that butter, put your flour in, then you would just put in a little bit of thyme there. You would stir it gently until it gets just past blonde, maybe about 60 to 90 seconds, and then you can put it into your soup. Finish that with some heavy cream, then that will give you your creamy factor. You would literally just take it out of your saucepan and scoop it into your soup and whisk it in a little bit, and then you'd have your soup start to thicken up almost instantly. But that's not the shortcut way. That's the long path. And if you want to do long path, more power to you. I like to do that sometimes too when I have time. But for now, this shortcut ingredient, cream of chicken soup, has done the trick. So now our sour cream is going to go in, and it's not going to go in my pot. It's going to go in a bowl. If you've ever tried to mix sour cream into something, you've probably noticed there's almost always white chunks of it just floating around in your soup. It doesn't hurt anything for taste factor, but it doesn't look exactly glorious. So I'm going to put about 1/2 cup of sour cream into my bowl. Maybe a little more than 1/2 cup. A little less. There we go. 1/2 cup. I love the stuff. And then I'm going to take my ladle and get a little bit of my warm soup out, and I'm going to put it on top of my sour cream. And it's going to bring my sour cream up to temperature a little bit and let it break down easier into my soup. So there's a little warm liquid, and I'm going to just kind of whisk it in with a fork just so it starts to break down the sour cream a little bit. I'll show you exactly what's happening here. See how it's just starting to break down a little bit? And I'll stir it all together and show you how creamy and kind of looser this gets. See? A little bit more of a yogurt consistency. And then this will mix in ever so easily into my soup. Okay. So now that that's in there, I'm going to stir this around. And there's no lumps whatsoever. That easy, that quick. This is so thick and rich and creamy already. Oh, it looks delicious. Okay, so this is going to simmer for about another 5 minutes, but this is a good time to start tasting and seeing if it needs salt and pepper. So I'm going to get my spoon. The flavors are really good. I'm happy with it. Very good. Okay, I'm going to get this simmering for another couple minutes, and then we'll be right back with my final finishing ingredient. Okay, y'all, I'm going to put a little half and half in to finish my soup. I'm going to pour it in here because I don't want to pour it straight in. This is one thing I don't want to overdo. I know exactly how much I need in this little creamer. So I've got 1/2 cup of half and half going in. And the reason we waited to do this till the very end is because, like I said, those creamy things, if they come up to a boil, they don't have the best consistency if you let them boil too long. So you want this to be already very warm, completely cooked through, not having any questions about it having to return to a boil or anything. Because past this, when you add in all those creamy things, all you want to do is simmer. If you need to leave it on low for a while until everybody's ready to eat, that's fine. I just would not leave it higher than low because it'll start to curdle. I'm going to give it a final good crack of black pepper. And because my flavors were basically there before I added in my cream, I am going to check it one more time, but I shouldn't have to add too much. My guess is it's going to need a little sprinkle of finishing salt, and that'll be it. But tasting before is the greatest thing, because if it needs more of something else like garlic powder or something, I've got time to do that. You definitely don't want to wait till the end to do all of your seasoning, but if you have to adjust at the end, that's fine. Okay, let's do one more taste. That's delicious. The corn flavor is so great in there. Another little sprinkling of salt, not much. And now, like I said, this is going to just sit on low until we're ready to eat it. It'll thicken up a little bit while it's sitting here. But if you're wanting to eat it now, I would say this is what to do. Take it off the heat, let it cool. It is lightning lava hot. So let it cool for a few minutes and it'll thicken up just a little bit more for you, and it'll be delicious in no time. So we've done this in about 20 minutes, and that is a super quick, super delicious supper. I recommend that you serve this with some biscuits or cornbread, or my favorite is some juiced up saltine crackers. I love to take my saltine crackers and butter them a little bit, put some garlic powder, salt on them, and a little bit of parsley, and toast them real quick. I'll show you a demo for that a couple of weeks from now. But right now, this is ready to eat when we are. I hope you enjoyed this shortcut supper, and come on back for some more in Mama Winton's Kitchen. See y'all next time.